Hello everybody, I'm going to be showing you how to create a DLL/class library in C# utilizing the newest API 6.0 and the newest framework 4.6.1. First off, create yourself a new project. You don't do it this way, you do it a different way by going to File, New, and Project. The way I do it's because I'm going to be adding it to my repository. It's through here. I am going to make a class library, call it our lib. Well, make sure you have the framework set to 4.6.1, the latest one. Click OK. I am just going to quickly change some of the settings in it, such as the default namespace. I'm going to change that to FM tutorials because that's the solution that it's in. And change the assembly name to lib, our lib, because I know it may look redundant, but by proper conventions, putting the word lib in front of it of your library is the right way. You can also go about by changing everything else, even the assembly information. This is called lib. It's just going to be a basic library used for tutorial demonstrations. Product is our lib because that's what we called it. And we're just going to keep the rest the default. I'm going to save it, close this, and I'm just going to rename this class to something that's relevant to your library. Let's rename it to sum. I'm just going to quickly change the namespace, the default one, and rename this to sum. And now I'm going to quickly create a method that gets the sum of two values. Do a public static int if it's going to be an integer, add, and then we're going to do int value a, int value b. Now we're going to return value a plus value b. And then I'm just going to make it into a two expression body. And if you want it to be other value types, we can do so like this. So if you want it to be a floating point, let me just change this to float. And now we're going to create another project. This is going to be our console application, which is what we're going to be using to test the library. We're just going to call this our console. And just as the other one, we're going to change the default namespace and leave everything else. What we're also going to do is change this to be our startup project. And then I'm going to rename this to main entry. And then I'm going to change this. Rename this to main entry because that's what it's called. And after that, what we have to do is go to references on the console application, click add reference. Now depending on if it's outside or inside your project, if your library is outside your project, just click browse and then browse to it. If it's inside your project, click projects, solutions, and then click what it's called, which is our lib. We are going to build our lib by right clicking on it and clicking build. Once it's finished, which you'll know down here, we're going to go back to the class that we just created. First, we're going to import our libraries, fm tutorials.ourlib. Now, what we are going to do is basically use that console right line sum.add 69. Just to use the other one, we're going to do the same thing, but use the floating point one. 69.9999999 which is the literal for float. 69.9999999 for that as well. And I forgot to write an add. And now what we're going to do is application doesn't close, so we're going to do console.read key and then true to interrupt your key press. And now we're going to run the application. Make sure you have right-clicked on it if you didn't create your console application first, and click set as startup project. Then click run. Now you can see that it has done the math. 69 plus 69 is 138, and then the float is 140. Math is not wrong in computing. That's how you make a DLL/class library in C#. If you have any other questions or comments or requests, put them in the comments section below. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you don't, just smash the thumbs down or whatever, do what you want. Give me some feedback. This is my first video, and I plan on doing a lot more. Thanks for watching.